Hi, everyone. This is Mary Lurson, Executive Director of the NAMM Foundation. I'm coming to you live on Facebook with our great friends at EnterTalk Radio and live from the last day of Summer NAMM here in Nashville, Tennessee. So thank you for joining us. Remember, we're always with you at the NAMM Foundation Talking at Music Education podcast also. I'm here with the last podcast of Summer NAMM with a very special guest, Crystal Morris, President and CEO of Gator Cases Levy Leathers. Welcome,
Yes,
Crystal.
thank you very much for having me.
Yes, a wonderful escaped from the exhibit hall floor.
Yeah, it's a little quieter in here.
Yeah. 3 days you've been
Yeah,
exhibiting
yeah.
upstairs. Have had good traffic.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's so much fun to get to interact with your customers and see all your friends in the industry.
Yeah,
So
it's,
fun.
it's great,
So
great.
fun.
And Nashville is a little quieter than our NAMM show in January, right?
Well,
It was a
okay,
little-
this year I had Sabian across from us, and they had the guy banging out the cymbal, so I
Not-
would definitely say it's quieter.
Yeah, quiet. Yes, well, we have to talk about getting a whisper booth down in that
Yeah,
part of the
exactly.
trade show floor. Well, as we always like to start with Talking Up Music Education Podcast, a little bit about your origin story.
Yeah,
You
that'd
know,
be
that
great.
people, the story that people who are in our industry and doing wonderful things in the industry kind of go back, and there's some music making in there, in that story. right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of two parts for me because I grew up in a family. My father was in the music industry, and the product side also. So I grew up around it. We had artists and instruments and all sorts of things in the house. And when I would go to visit him at work, so I got to see it that way. And then also I took piano growing up, and it was very important to him that he exposed me to music. Actually, it's funny, I just recently was working on a different presentation and found this magazine, or it was for band instrument, like little accessories, and I was playing the tambourines in the ad in the early 80s, so in a product my dad sold. So
Wow.
yeah,
So there's actually a picture of that. You'll have
There
to share. You
is.
have to share that
There
with
is,
me.
yeah.
We can put that up with the podcast promotion.
oh, I don't know. It was
Right?
maybe a little
Should
80s.
Should it go viral? Or
Maybe
no?
not.
Yeah,
I think had some big braces.
Those of us in the 80s really aren't so proud about going
Yeah.
back there, but I was an adult in the 80s,
Yeah,
so,
well, I had some
what were
crazy
we
hair.
thinking?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. I was pretty young, and I think my mom had taken the very short haircut
Yeah,
approach. So
yeah. What were we thinking?
Yes.
So how long did you play the piano? And was it the classical training and all
yeah,
the
I mean, I
kind
took
of
piano
going?
lessons probably for 5 or 6 years, maybe more, all through like elementary and through middle school. And then I got really active playing competitive tennis, and that kind of ended the piano lessons. They just started conflicting. And
Right. So
got me
tell
from
us
the
about
direction.
that competitive tennis thing that you did.
Oh, yeah,
Through high
so-
school, college? all
Yeah,
of that?
so I traveled all over playing tennis, and such a great, like, as I look back, it's nice to be able to play a nice game of tennis now, but more importantly, I think it like kind of teaches you work hard, then you sometimes get beat down, you go and you win, but eventually you lose, and you got to get back up and go do it again. So when people talk to me about running a business, I think that history of, doing something you work hard at, and you don't always win, you don't always get immediate gratification, but you go back at it, I think is some valuable lessons.
The tennis story.
Yeah.
The tennis story.
Or
part of
anything, I mean,
you.
sports or music, I mean, all of it's like that. It's not,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of hard work.
Early, going back a couple of decades when women were really just accelerating in their role in leadership, so often you would talk about the comparison to the women that were engaged with sports were doing quote unquote better.
That makes a lot of sense to
And
me.
there was actually a lot of research about it.
Oh.
So like the first wave of women that were achieving sort of that upward mobility within difficult environments,
Yeah.
like being a partner in a law firm, and they would sort of be profiled or better understood what their background was, and there was just a lot of sports.
Yeah,
in
I think
their
it makes
background,
sense because
right?
it's difficult and you have to
Right.
work hard at it.
And there's
it's not-
team stuff like
Yeah.
basketball,
Absolutely.
and so that's part of your story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's, I don't know, I think it was instrumental for me.
Yeah. So then did you then come into your father's business? Is that how
So
Gator Case was born in a collaboration with
yeah,
that,
so a
or?
little bit. I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a a trail to get there. But when I graduated from college, I had a business degree, and then my dad said that he thought I needed to get a real life MBA. So he helped me get these different jobs in different businesses. So everything from like working in a distributor in Argentina to working in a freight forwarder in Miami to a marketing firm. So I did this for a period of time. And it was a great experience. Went to Costa Rica, supposed to work on Spanish. I had a little more fun there.
I didn't know about this loop. This is a really...
Yeah, so I had that period of time right after college that I did that before I directly worked with him. And then I joined a business he had that was somewhat like a rep business in the music industry, really specialized in international sales. And one of the companies, I really got involved in the marketing. So that was kind of where I started to learn about marketing and running that part of the business.
So he was really a mentor to you
absolutely.
at that point.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
kind of the structured sort of approach, and then you got to go here and you got to go here and come back and tell me how you did, and right?
Yeah, and I think...
and plus being your dad.
Yeah. And the thing that was awesome about him and through all these different experiences was he let me kind of own it. And if I failed, he was cool. He didn't jump in all the time. He let me kind of figure my own way out, which I think, and was supportive. Most things we can fix. So if maybe he'd support my decisions and gave me chances to learn. So
that's really great though.
So so it was awesome. So that was kind of the early period. And then, I met my husband I was at the time living in Miami. He lived in Tampa. And so decided to move to Tampa and go back and get my real MBA. And so I was working on that when this idea of this opportunity to do a case company came about. So literally it was founded around our kitchen table.
So your father had other businesses, but not Gator?
No, so one of the companies that he repped was a case company. And they parted ways, and when they parted ways, it seemed like an opportunity to...
A gap emerged.
Yes,
right.
An opportunity to dive in. And so we just were literally sitting around the kitchen table. He was thinking about maybe repping other case company. We're like, well, let's just do this ourselves. And I was in business school, and I was taking this accounting or finance class, and we were studying this idea of a variable cost model. So I was like, we can do this with no money. We can outsource everything. So
no money, right, Crystal, no money, right?
So honestly, we started with $12,500 we capitalized Gator with.
Wow.
And pretty much up until a recent acquisition of never carried any debt.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's a successful company.
So right? So that's pretty cool.
And how old is Gator since that moment?
18 years. 18 years. Yeah.
And just now one of those emblematic brands, right?
Thank you.
I mean, you kind of don't see a band that's touring load up without Gator sticking out the back of the 18-wheeler, right?
It is so fun. We do. Everywhere you go now, it took a lot of years for it to be like that, but it's... I was actually in Nashville a couple of weeks ago walking around, and I'm walking down Broadway, and I see, our cases propped up in the different venues.
I have a live music venue not far from my home. It's on the way to the train into the city, New York City, and, there's every Tuesday or Wednesday, there's tour buses and 18-wheelers, and off the back come Gator cases. So I think about you a lot.
Thank you. Well, sometimes I wonder where they all go, so that's great.
Right. They're moving around, and that's so. How many products are in the? How many products are in the line, quote unquote?
So
you've branched out.
Yeah, so we definitely branched out. So in the case, or kind of the Gator business side, we have about 950 SKUs. So there's cases, there's other accessories, stands, speaker stands, mic stands. And then another big part of that business is OEM. So we work with all sorts of leading manufacturers to do the design and make all their cases and bags for them.
And how many employees at Gator?
Total, we have 185 employees, including levies.
Creative and marketing, and the manufacturing is also U.S. and offshore.
Some U.S. and some offshore.
Yeah, it's great. So along the way, you moved up through the company, right?
So we started this thing together. Literally was in my guest bedroom. I did I set up the GL structure for, put accounting system in place, placed the purchase orders. So I did kind of all the operations side of the business and the marketing. And then my dad, who had, long history in the music industry, did all the sales and really product. So designing the product, working with the manufacturers. And so we kind of had split duties. And that was kind of pretty clear, which was, and we kind of just let each other do our thing in those areas. And he was great about that, like just letting me do it.
You keep saying that, but I think you probably also really showed him that you just could do it.
I just think that I see some times where like you get run over and in particular in family businesses where you kind of don't want your kids to fail sometimes, or you don't, I don't even think it's like necessarily fail, but just I've been down that path, here's how to do it. And so letting someone do the self-discovery, and then when you do something that's awesome and it works, you get self-confidence and you know it was you that did it.
So he was really good at that.
Just giving me room to breathe.
Yeah. So then you took the reins, right?
So I guess kind of the abbreviated story was that about 8 years ago, I actually walked into his office and noticed his face was drooping, and instantly thought, he had had a stroke. And so that was like this wake-up call of, okay, something's going to change. So obviously, we went on a plight to figure out how to medically, seek out what was going on. But for me, I was like, oh, wow, something, today I could be here by myself running this company.
And change is
going to happen.
Right.
And it was. I spent a lot of time thinking about it because I had young children at the time, and I was like, "Am I up for this?" He did. First of all, he was always there. He's the sounding board. You pick up the phone, you talk to him. Right. We had offices next to each other with a sliding door, and beyond that, it's there were skills or relationships that I didn't have, and so I literally after kind of a month or so, I wrote this list of okay, here's the things I think I have to do, and then am I willing to go do them? And interesting enough, one of them was to get on the NAMM board. So I went on a mission to get on the NAMM board.
I like that you had a list.
I did.
You had a list.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, I think I read this quote I love that ideas are just dreams until you write them down and they become a goal. And so I just. I looked at our customers, okay, these are the customers I've got to build my own relationship with. And as a female and somewhat of a young female, I was like, are they going to respect me? Can I build the relationship? Same thing with, we have a lot of offshore vendors in Asia that
can be very complicated.
Yeah. And how do I build relationships with them? How do I make sure they trust me and know that, I know what I'm doing, and that there's going to be a lot of future success. So I just had this list and I went to work at it, and made the commitment that I was going to get on the airplanes and go all these places, because to build relationships, both on the supplier side and with your customers, you got to go there and you got to be there and see them.
So you didn't know when the next change would occur, but you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And you faced the fact.
Yeah.
And you just took the steps in that direction.
Yeah. I think that moment when I was like, this could have been it, I was like, oh, I have gaps. I've got to fill these gaps.
Right. And that takes a lot of self-awareness, right?
Right? Maybe, I guess.
Or something, right? You just,
or fear, I don't know, but yeah.
Or, and that what you were building was really important, to your dad's legacy, whenever it would occur, or however, right? And to what you wanted to do in the future.
Well, and I feel tremendous responsibility to all the people that are part of Gator. Their families are dependent on it. I have 185 families that depend on us doing a good job now. So,
so I can't. So now you are a bona fide commander-in-chief, Gator.
Okay.
Right, and really, not very many women in that role.
There are not enough women.
In our industry, but even across all industries, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Small business, large businesses, top management of. So, was there? We could spend hours talking about that. But does something a couple of things stand out in terms of things? I mean, you talked already about could you go out and develop these relationships and have a mutual trust? Could you be kind of the boss and have that authority? Are there things that you just had to just keep working at? I mean, that maybe every woman that wants to do this has to just admit is part of the path? I mean, is it?
I don't know. I think, like, for me and thinking about leadership, like, you have to figure out who you are. Like, I think it's great to have lots of mentors that you draw on for ideas, but the more you can just know who you are and be you, then I think you know where your starting point is.
Your own skin, right? Goes back
and you feel good in it, like you know. And so, following my father, I have a very different management style than I personally have, but that's okay. Like, we don't need to do it the same way. So, I just think figuring out who you are, and then going back on the side of like going out and meeting customers, I personally think if you're good, you can get people's respect. So I would never just show up and be like, hi, I'm here. I mean, I'm going to come with, and probably maybe two, and maybe that is part of fighting the fact of, you know, being a woman and wanting to gain respect. Like, I always show up with things to bring value. So I'm going to come prepared. I'm going to come with ideas that are win-win for us to grow our businesses. And so I'm not showing up just to go to dinner. I mean, not that I wouldn't love to go to dinner later, but I want to show that we could add value. And I think that ultimately was where I was able to gain respect and just an awesome network in the end of friends and
you have
colleagues.
A phenomenal network of friends.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I'm grateful to be one of them, and you know, starting on the board, and we did some stuff had so much fun at the Republican convention in Tampa in the rain, and it was really great, and you also are really very conscious of giving back to the industry. So tell us about something you've actually helped. You're part of the triumvirate of the SWIM Fund. What does it stand for?
Smart Women in Business, or in music.
So, yeah.
I mean, I guess when I first joined the NAMM board and we talked about the circle of benefits, and it just clicked to me. And the idea of circle of benefits is, as a manufacturer, we spend money with NAMM to exhibit and come to these things, but how does that turn and go back to give back to music education and creating music in the future? And it just clicked, okay, this totally makes sense. This is a win for everybody. And so then when we got this opportunity, and a couple of things, so the NAMM Foundation as a whole, I think, does such a beautiful job of taking the idea of reaching into all these nooks and crannies of all these wonderful programs across the world that are generating interest in music and all these unique ways to get other education. And then that kind of leapt into this idea that Robin, I think, really led the charge on, but I was really thrilled she called me to be a part of it as far as getting more women involved. And
because there's a gap.
There's a huge gap.
Kind of the gap analysis.
There is.
Right?
You sit in any room, and it's Rob and I were laughing because we were in a room the other morning talking about swim, and it's, I don't know, definitely less than 20% of the room is women. And that wasn't even, that could have been more at mid-level management. At the highest leadership levels in our industry, it's a very small handful.
It's small single digit, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we want to change that.
Yeah, so now we have a formal fund in the NAV Foundation. It's raised, we just kind of ran the numbers this morning. We just over $40,000.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
We just, what was it, 90 days ago, 120 days ago?
It was middle of April.
Yeah.
So 80, I don't know, I don't do so well with numbers of
Not
the
that
month,
long ago.
Not that month. Yeah, 60 and 90 days ago. Yeah, it was just great. Which means it's a gap that resonates.
It does.
And people are willing. So this swim fund is going to grow to offer mentorships and scholarships maybe, and a summit.
I think our initial goals are going to be able to get more women to the NAMM shows. There's so much fabulous education that goes on beyond exhibitors. There's just education all day long. So being able to get more women here to put together a mentorship program with women and help have funding so that they can perhaps like fly in and shadow their mentors and spend time with them. And then we're working on a symposium, I think, for 2019, where we're going to take a group of women to NAMM headquarters in Southern California, which is a beautiful facility, and really work on leadership and training and networking.
It's really mobilized people just on the idea level. There's not a schedule of programming yet. I mean, there's
I know, we're getting there.
but that's coming. But, you know, it's just mobilized people. It's given people a lot of inspiration. A lot of women I'm talking to are just going, wow,
I know. You know, the other thing that I love, though, is how many men have approached me.
Yeah.
That was surprising me because, like, women, I get, like, you know, but I love the fact that leaders in our industry that are men are like, yeah, I really hadn't thought about this. You're right. We need more women. How can I help? How can I contribute?
And I think there's sort of a realization, too, that there's a talent development stream that can affect any company.
Absolutely.
Right? And many companies that are seeking, well, how do I bring that talent stream along? You know, it's like we have to be, you know, my favorite word about that is we have to be deliberate about it. We have to do something about it. We get to do something.
We have to think about it.
So you and I are sitting here with a little bit of too much concealer on, maybe, because what happened last night? Happened last night? Let's talk about last night, Friday night, Summer NAMM.
Hopefully,
What did you do in less than 30 days for the NAMM Foundation?
I mean, it's so funny. Like, I guess there's just always like a little bit of fate and the right people coming together. And so months ago, and I think over actually a couple of years, we've discussed the idea of putting together a party at one of the NAMM shows to benefit the NAMM Foundation. And it just kind of perfectly came together to do a night last night at the Hard Rock. It was, I think, a blast. All these manufacturers, I mean, literally one sentence emails, hey, can you get behind this? All jumped on board.
22 sponsors,
like
right.
All, you know, amazing brands. And then we had this just kind of hodgepodge of amazing artists that played.
Including an IP lawyer, the NAMM members' leading accountant, who are all rock and rollers.
Joe Lamont,
our
CEO
president
of NAMM.
CEO, our NAMM Foundation board members, our vice chair of NAMM. The director of market, the director of professional development.
I had an assortment of Gator staff that
saw
jumped
the
up.
Gator band.
The Gator band. They threw that together last week. In our conference room. So Howard, Paul from Benedict Guitars, like flew in just to play for a 30-minute set. But I think like part of actually to me the magic of it was watching all these people that we work together, maybe know each other, pass each other in the halls of a trade show. Like there's just something awesome about music, right? When you get people together and they work together. And I was privy to many emails putting this thing together, but watching the different little bands we put together and they're emailing each other, figuring out set lists, and just brings everyone together. It was amazing.
It also reinforces the community.
It does.
That, you know, it's almost like we call it the NAMMily.
It
right?
is.
The
It
NAMMily.
totally is.
And, you know, like you look at the swim fund relative to the NAMMily. Well, the NAMMily kind of sat down and realized, you know, we got a little work to do over here. And let's put together this little project so we can maybe bring this part of the family needs to get a little bit of attention. You know, I mean,
I think you're absolutely right. It is. It's like, I mean, I just think we're so lucky to be in such an amazing industry. Like, I get so excited to come to the NAMM shows. Obviously, you know, I'm happy to sell some product, but it's more about the people. I mean, it's just, I mean, I think every aspect of business and life is about the people you put in it, but it's just this industry is made of amazing people. And like last night, everyone's up in the front supporting each other and dancing. And
taking care of each other.
Taking care of each other towards the end of the evening.
A little bit of taking care. It's all good.
All good.
You know, and we were part of the Nashville Friday night scene, which has really become something.
And Nashville is crazy.
Yeah, really something. And I think we had a very high quality of music, though, relative to other music that we were hearing. Right.
But I think all the bachelorette.
Oh yeah, we had a crash though. I told you that, right? One of the bachelorette parties crashed our party.
There we go.
I thought
we have arrived.
Yes, I thought check. That was good. We were worthy of being
exactly.
That was really good.
We have come.
Right. So before I ask kind of the last question, the second to last question is you've been sharing with me kind of on the side that you've been doing some very interesting leadership training. you spent some time at Yale, and can you just, what's that been like for you? Why did you say, time out, I need a little time for me? It's like,
okay, well, I can't think of anything more important than continuous education, and I've always done it. I love it. I love sharing ideas, hearing new ideas. Normally, the people that you're in a room with that are doing continuous education just are all inspirational. And so I love that aspect of it. But then this past year, I kind of really dove in and did this year-long program at Yale where you're on campus for 5 weeks. So that was a big commitment.
With a kid looking for colleges and a merger.
We did this acquisition. It was a little trying, but it was a blast. I mean, this program was amazing. There's 40 of us. I think 25 were from outside the U.S. So it's just so global and just makes you think and get your mind going with ideas. And it's hard to be away, but my experience is like getting out there. That's the only way you can learn and get this idea generation to take your business to the next place. And it's not only like external, like what kind of products. Like, I mean, part of some of the best learning is like how to run your business, how to like make great culture and make it a place where people love to work, and it just lets you take a little time out so you can take the time to think about that and then go figure out how you're gonna go back and execute it.
Did you have to write papers though?
No.
Thank goodness.
There's just a lot of case study reading. And like everything in life, it's all what you put into it. So
right.
You know, I mean, if you put a lot of work into it and you take the time to read all the reading and the assignments, you get more out of it.
Right, that's great. So what's next for Crystal Morris?
Gosh, I don't know. Swim fun. I mean,
we got to plan another party.
Another party. Right. We're going to kill it next summer, NAMM. Right. I don't know. I totally love what I'm doing. It's just like new challenges every day. We just recently acquired Levy Straps, which is a great fit for us with the accessory side, but it's a Canadian company. So I mean, there's all these things I hadn't even thought about, but now you're dealing with. I mean, just with currencies and so I just think continuing to find the next opportunities and just growing the business. And then I love the whole aspect of giving back. Like, I love giving my time to mentor and work with young entrepreneurs in particular. And love giving back to this industry and being a part of it.
Well, we're certainly grateful, and it's just fun to know you, Crystal. Let's keep
thank
having
you.
some
I feel
fun.
the same way. I mean, how many notes do I send you? You're like my favorite person.
Right.
You just do so many amazing things.
Let's just keep having some fun.
We are. We're
having
having
the
fun.
way.
We're having fun.
So thank you for joining this. We just got to slip me a note that this is the 61st episode of Talking Up Music Education with my special guest, Crystal Morris from Gator Cases.
Well,
thank you, Crystal.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.
It was great. And thanks for joining us for this episode of Talking Up Music Education, a podcast of the NAMM Foundation.